The zone of silence. In the vast, arid desert, far from the customary paths of civilization, lies an enigma that defies human understanding, the zone of silence. This place, marked by its mysterious inability to support any form of electronic communication, has attracted the attention of scientists and the curious for decades. Reports of compasses spinning directionless, radios falling into a sepulchral silence, and satellites failing to operate over the area fuel the aura of mystery surrounding this region. The exact nature of this phenomenon remains undetermined, raising questions as vast as the desert itself. Various theories have been proposed in an attempt to explain the existence of the zone of silence. Some suggest that high levels of magnetic minerals in the soil might be interfering with electromagnetic waves, while others speculate on the influence of secret government experiments or even the presence of a portal to unknown dimensions. However, one of the most intriguing hypotheses points to a possible rift in space-time, a tear in the very fabric of the universe, guarded by entities wishing to remain hidden. This theory, though widely speculative, fuels the imagination of those daring to ponder the true significance of the zone of silence and what it might reveal about the mysteries of the cosmos. In the heart of the relentless desert, Dr. Elias Harrow decides to venture into the infamous zone of silence, armed only with his scientific curiosity in measuring instruments. Despite local warnings about strange anomalies and disappearances, his thirst for knowledge pushes him forward. As he ventures ahead, the world around him falls abruptly silent, as if nature itself had been muted, marking the invisible boundary of the zone. As Dr. Elias Harrow advances, the merciless sun of the desert seems to lose its intensity, plunging the environment into an unnatural twilight. The silence is so profound that the beating of his own heart becomes a deafening roar in his ears. Elias begins to feel a growing restlessness, a primal sensation that he is not alone. Shadows move on the periphery of his vision, disappearing when he tries to focus on them. Temperatures fluctuate abnormally, with suffocating heat giving way to a piercing cold in the blink of an eye, as if the very atmosphere were being manipulated by unknown forces. In a moment of escalating terror, Elias's measuring instruments begin to register erratic readings, oscillating between extremes before shutting down completely, victims of the same annihilation that silences communications. Isolation becomes palpable, an entity in itself, pressing on him with the vastness of the unknown. Sounds unheard until now begin to infiltrate the quiet, indistinct whispers that seem to speak in an ancient and forgotten language, hissing promises and warnings. These whispers appear to emanate from the very ground, as if the earth beneath his feet contained the secrets and sins of past ages. Night falls abruptly, as if dark curtains were drawn across the sky, and with it, a sensation of dizziness assaults him. Elias realizes, with a mix of fascination and horror, that the stars above rearrange into unknown patterns, forming constellations no astronomer on Earth has ever catalogued. Reality begins to distort, space bending in impossible ways, suggesting that the zone of silence is more than a mere location of terrestrial anomalies. It is a threshold to the unimaginable, guarded by entities that lurk in the darkness, watching his every move with inscrutable intentions. He perceives, then, that his intrusion might have awakened something ancient and malevolent, whose existence intertwines with the fabric of reality in ways the human mind cannot comprehend. As Dr. Elias delves deeper into the zone, he notices a distortion in the air, like undulating heat waves but with an almost liquid quality. His equipment begins to shut down, the displays flickering in random patterns before darkening completely. He finds himself isolated, without GPS, without communication, only his notes for company. In this moment, fearing that his discoveries might forever be lost in this no-return place, Elias sets up a temporary camp, determined to document his findings before attempting an unlikely return. However, during the night, inexplicable sounds disturb the deadly silence, whispers that seem to form words in an unknown language, accompanied by a sensation of being watched. As days pass, Elias begins to notice discrepancies in time, the sun sets and rises at erratic intervals, and his provisions seem to last longer than they should. He theorizes he is indeed close to a rift in space-time, a monumental discovery, confirming the most absurd theories, but his notes begin to contradict themselves, as if he were losing his grasp on reality. Delving further, Elias finds a metallic structure buried in the sand, with unknown symbols engraved on its surface. Upon touching it, a vision strikes him, an alien civilization, constructing this structure as a guard against something unspeakable on the other side of the rift. The vision unfolds before Elias's eyes with startling clarity, transporting him across time and space to a scenario that defies his understanding. He witnesses an advanced civilization, whose technology surpasses anything humanity has ever dreamed of, united in the construction of the metallic structure. The symbols, he realizes, are more than mere marks. They form a complex system of seals and barriers, designed to contain and conceal the rift from forces beyond comprehension. The entities around the rift, glimpsed only in the shadows of Elias's vision, emit an aura of pure terror, suggesting that whatever is on the other side possesses a malignant and chaotic power. As the vision intensifies, Elias sees the alien civilization succumb to desolation. An unknown force, emanating from the rift, begins to corrupt everything around it, distorting reality and consuming lives. The metallic structure, despite being a marvel of engineering and alien magic, begins to fail in its guarding function. The aliens fight desperately, sacrificing themselves in an attempt to reinforce the seals and protect the known universe from the impending invasion. Elias feels a mix of admiration and horror as he witnesses the collapse of an entire civilization under the weight of its own creation. The vision ends as abruptly as it began, leaving Elias back in reality, gasping and trembling in the cold desert sand. He now understands that the structure is not merely a relic, it is a warning, a key to a mystery that transcends human history. The sensation of being watched intensifies, and Elias realizes that, by activating the structure, he might have inadvertently signaled his location to the entities the alien civilization fought so desperately to imprison. With this realization comes the terrible acknowledgement that the zone of silence harbors secrets that perhaps would have been better left undiscovered. Suddenly, Elias is thrown back into reality by the appearance of shadowy figures on the edge of his vision. They move with a supernatural fluidity, never fully visible, but unmistakably present. Their presence is accompanied by a penetrating cold, a stark contrast to the desert's heat. The scientist attempts to communicate, using signs and sounds, but the figures remain silent, watching. With each attempt at approach, they recede, maintaining a constant distance. Elias realizes they are not guardians of the rift but rather refugees from it, fearful of what resides on the other side. Driven to prove his theory, even at a terrifying cost, possibly even releasing those creatures imprisoned on the other side, Elias decides to use the metallic structure as a catalyst to open the rift. Combining his remaining equipment with the energy emanated by the structure, he initiates a process he cannot stop, drawn by the promise of revelations beyond human comprehension. As the rift opens, a blinding glow erupts, revealing a pulsating void that sucks in light and heat around it. From its darkness, indescribable forms begin to emerge, entities that defy the laws of physics and sanity, hissing in a chorus of distorted voices. The shadowy figures stir in despair, attempting to close the rift, but it's too late. The desert around begins to deteriorate, reality unraveling like sand in the wind. Elias, terrified, realizes the catastrophic error of his experiment. He attempts to flee, but the distortion of space-time envelopes him, dragging him into the rift and sucking everything around it, in a crescendo as if feeding on the local reality, every moment increasing and destroying everything around. Struggling for each step, he watches the history of Earth unfold in reverse, civilizations rising and falling in seconds, until everything becomes a primordial void. In the last moment before being consumed, Elias understands the terrible truth: the rift was a prison, not a door, containing entities that existed before the known universe, thirsty to reclaim the reality that was denied them. Like a failed experiment, what lies behind the rift caused everything we know to regress to the beginning, provoking the restart of reality itself, but as it should have been if that initial reality had not been contained. With his last breath, Elias Harrow becomes part of the darkness, his consciousness expanding infinitely, witnessing the grotesque rebirth of the universe under the dominion of these ancient entities. Like an inverted Big Bang, reality concentrated into a single point, then began to expand in the way that had been denied the first time. The zone of silence, once a mere whisper in the vastness of the desert, now initiates a new, terrible, and frightening reality, in which the laws of physics are no longer immutable. And so, the known world unravels, not with a bang, but with a dark whisper, leaving only the echo of a curiosity that went too far, a somber reminder of what happens when the unknown is disturbed. At this moment, that thread of consciousness that in an infinitely earlier moment was called Dr. Elias realizes the enormity of his mistake, that his actions could not simply come from his mind, that the device he built was in fact induced in its creation by the forces that desired freedom, and that, in his ignorance, he became the architect of destruction, in a terrifying moment of regret that forever faded at the beginning of a new universe, leaving behind a mark, like a scar, inexplicable, but perennial, a graphic representation of his mistake, that would forever remain in the universe. 14 billions of years later, a new device created by the new entities that arose in that new and imperfect universe, created from the ashes of the previous universe, manages to capture, in a very distant galaxy, a fraction of this scar, inexplicable in its form but forever present, defying common knowledge. This device had an unusual name, Hubble. Dare to venture into the unknown. Join us on a journey where shadows whisper and secrets lurk. Subscribe now and ring the bell to summon fresh mysteries directly to your screen every few days. Ignore this call, and be warned, an eternal curse awaits those who wander in the dark, unguided. Do you have the courage to face the unknown? Your adventure begins with a click. Welcome to the realm where every notification brings you closer to the abyss. Subscribe, if you dare.